Hello, guys. Tonight, we're not rushing anywhere. No demands. No noise. Just time to breathe, to listen, and to let the world grow a little softer around the edges. We're not heading into battles or great turning points. Not tonight. Instead, we're stepping quietly into the soft fabric of everyday life, the kind of moments that didn't make headlines or history books, but carry just as much meaning. Moments of routine, of candlelight, of silence and repetition. Tonight is about the forgotten corners of history. Not kings or wars, but paper, ink, ritual, quiet habits. We're going to explore what it meant to live through the ordinary, the slow hours, the steady rhythms. The way someone might return to the same desk each morning. The way the scent of a candle might linger longer than the words on a page. It's not dramatic. It's not thrilling. But it is steady. And sometimes, that's exactly what we need. So if you've had a long day, if your mind feels heavy, or your eyes are tired, dim the lights. Maybe light a candle of your own. Pull the blanket a little closer. And let the quiet hold you for a while. And if you enjoyed these slow, peaceful journeys through the past, a like or a subscribe helps more than you might think. Truly. You can even leave a comment to say where you're listening from, and what time it is there. I always love seeing how far this quiet can reach. Now, let your shoulders relax. Let your breathing slow. And when you're ready, let's begin. The great city of London stretches wide beneath the fading light of a setting sun. The sky, painted in soft gradients of peach, amber, and dusky rose, seems to hold its breath as the day slowly folds into evening. Along narrow streets lined with old brick tenements, the last warm rays of sunlight catch on worn, weathered walls, bathing the city in a tender glow. The hard edges of the day blur gently, as if the city itself is softening in preparation for rest. The tenements stand shoulder to shoulder, tightly packed like old friends sharing stories in the quiet dusk. Their facades, rough with age and soot darkened from decades of coal smoke, reveal little yet hold so much within. The bricks, chipped and stained by countless seasons of rain and frost, form a sturdy, stoic shell that shelters thousands of lives. Small, often foggy windows flicker to life as oil lamps are lit inside, their amber light pulsing quietly like fireflies in the gathering gloom. Below, the cobbled streets grow still. The clatter of horseshoes and wheels fades slowly away, replaced by soft footsteps and distant murmurs. A cool breeze meanders through the alleys, stirring loose leaves and forgotten scraps of paper that dance lazily along the uneven stones. The scent of wood smoke and burning coal drifts faintly on the air, mixing with the richer aromas of cooking fires and simmering stews. Above the rooftops, thin columns of smoke rise slowly from chimneys, trailing upward in lazy curls before dissolving into the twilight sky. This smoke carries the scent of hearth fires tended carefully behind closed doors, where families prepare for the evening meal and the coming night. The smoke's quiet journey is a gentle reminder of life's simple rhythms, of warmth, comfort, and the small, steady acts that shape the passing hours. Within the tenements, life settles into its evening rhythm. Thick walls enclose modest rooms where families gather quietly, their day's labors done. The worn wooden staircases creak softly beneath careful steps as residents move about their homes. The air is filled with the murmur of low voices, the occasional laughter of children long since washed and fed, and the soft clinking of dishes being set for supper. The oil lamps cast a warm glow that softens the room's rough edges. Their flickering light reveals glimpses of worn furniture and simple possessions, a cracked teacup here, a threadbare quilt there, each item steeped in the lives of those who use them. Curtains, often patched or faded, flutter gently in the evening breeze slipping through cracked window panes. Through the windows, quiet scenes unfold. A mother smooths her child's hair with gentle, tired hands before settling them under a thin blanket. Nearby, a man reads slowly by lamplight, the worn pages of his book catching the amber flicker. In the kitchen, a pot simmers quietly, filling the air with the rich aroma of stew and bread baking low in a small oven. Outside, the streets grow darker, but the soft glow of gas lamps begins to bloom. Their pools of gentle light reach out across the cobbles, illuminating damp patches and the occasional stray cat weaving silently between shadowed corners. The lamps stand tall and still, their warm halos inviting calm rather than hurry. The evening deepens slowly. Stars begin to prick the sky's deepening blue, twinkling faintly above the chimneys and rooftops. The moon rises pale and steady, casting a silver wash across the city's tired bricks and narrow lanes. The tenements seem to breathe with the night, holding their stories close beneath the soft light. Within the rooms, sounds soften even more. The slow turning of a book page, the gentle folding of laundry, the muted footsteps of those preparing for bed, all these small noises form a quiet lullaby. Time stretches gently, each moment unfolding like a soft sigh. The families who live in these tenements know this time well, the sacred space between day and night, between work and rest. It is a time to slow down, to breathe deeply, and to find comfort in the familiar. The tenements themselves seem to share in this quiet pause, standing firm and steady as the world outside becomes still. Slowly, the night grows deeper. The last distant voices fade, replaced by the steady rhythm of life breathing quietly inside these walls. The tenements are alive with the gentle pulse of everyday moments, of people washing, preparing, resting, dreaming. These buildings, though humble and worn, offer sanctuary. Their thick brick walls keep the cold at bay, their small windows shelter hope and memory. The soft light within each room glows like a small beacon, a quiet testament to endurance, warmth, and the enduring human spirit. As darkness settles fully, the city seems to fold into itself. The tenements hold their vigil, quietly glowing with the lights behind curtained windows. Each lamp, each flicker, is a quiet story of home, of resilience and rest, of love and ordinary life lived slowly and surely. And so, beneath the vast night sky, the tenements stand, silent sentinels in a sleeping city, breathing calmly with the pulse of London. The day is done, the night is here, and life continues, steady and gentle, within these walls of brick and light. As the sun fully dips below the horizon, and the city settles into the calm embrace of evening, the world within the London tenements grows ever quieter, more intimate. The noise of the streets fades almost entirely, leaving behind only soft whispers and the gentle rhythm of household life. In the stillness, each small flat holds its own story, a tapestry woven of daily rituals, familiar sounds, and the slow unfolding of evening. The narrow staircases of the tenement creak under careful footsteps, their worn wooden boards telling silent tales of those who tread them countless times before. The scent of old wood mingles with faint traces of coal smoke and the faint sweetness of dried herbs hung above kitchen hearths. These stairwells are more than passageways. They are shared arteries of community, where brief greetings and exchanged smiles weave invisible bonds between neighbors. Inside a typical flat, the rooms are small and modest, often only just large enough to accommodate the essentials of life. The low ceilings press gently down, wrapped in the quiet, shadowed corners softened by the flickering glow of oil lamps or the pale light of candles. Each room is a cocoon of comfort, despite the modest furnishings, worn wooden chairs, a simple table scarred with the marks of daily meals, and shelves holding treasured books or keepsakes. The walls, usually plastered and often cracked, are softened by faded wallpaper or fabric hangings. These touches add warmth and a hint of color, making the small spaces feel more like home. The textures are rough but familiar, the soft scratch of threadbare rugs underfoot, the smooth coolness of a worn table surface, the delicate flicker of lamp light dancing over walls and faces. Evening brings with it a series of slow, deliberate rituals. Meals are prepared carefully over small hearths, the sound of bubbling stew and the gentle crackle of fire providing a steady soundtrack to the unfolding night. The scent of cooked vegetables, fresh bread, and sometimes a hint of dried spices fills the air, wrapping the flat in a gentle embrace of nourishment and care. As the meal settles in quiet, people move gently through the rooms. Children, their faces glowing softly in the lamplight, may gather close to a parent's side or curl up with a favorite doll or book. Conversations are hushed and steady, filled with stories of the day's small happenings or quiet plans for tomorrow. Laughter is soft and rare, treasured like a gentle melody. In one corner, a woman mends clothing, her needle moving slowly and methodically through threadbare fabric, each stitch a small act of preservation and care. Nearby, a man might quietly read by lamplight, the yellowed pages catching the flickering glow as his eyes trace familiar words. The quiet turning of pages, the faint scratch of needle and thread, the soft murmur of voices combine to create a lullaby of everyday life. The oil lamps are tended carefully throughout the evening. Their warm light is steady but fragile, casting gentle shadows that play softly on walls and ceilings. This light is a constant companion in the dusk and darkness, a reassuring presence that holds at bay the encroaching night and keeps the space alive with quiet warmth. Windows, often small and slightly fogged from the breath of many years, frame views of the dimly lit streets outside. Occasionally, the soft footsteps of a late neighbor pass by, their muffled pace blending seamlessly into the nighttime hush. A cat may pause briefly on a windowsill, its eyes catching the lamplight before disappearing silently into the darkness. The furniture in these rooms carries stories of generations. A sturdy table, its surface worn smooth by countless meals and conversations, anchors the space. Chairs, often mismatched but carefully maintained, circle the table or rest in quiet corners. A small cabinet may hold treasured heirlooms or simple china, their faded patterns glowing softly in the firelight. The air in these rooms is thick with memory and presence. The faint scent of lavender or rosemary from small bundles hanging near the hearth mixes with the deeper smell of wood smoke and earth. Every surface, every corner, speaks quietly of lives lived slowly but fully, of resilience, love, and the steady pulse of everyday existence. As the night deepens, preparations for sleep begin gently. Beds are made with worn but clean linens, carefully folded and smoothed. Children are tucked in with soft murmurs of comfort, their eyes growing heavy as the flickering lamp casts long shadows on the walls. The quiet settling of bodies into rest is the final gesture of the day's rhythm. Outside, the sounds of the city are now little more than a distant hum, a soft backdrop to the quiet breathing of the tenements. The night is cool and still, and within these small flats, warmth and light endure. The tenements themselves seem to breathe slowly, embracing the lives within and holding them safe in the calm night. This slow unfolding of evening life, the gentle lighting of lamps, the soft turning of pages, the hush of mending cloth, creates a tapestry of calm. Each moment is savored, each gesture gentle, a part of a larger whole that brings peace and quiet to the close of day. And so, the night settles fully. The tenement flats, small and humble, glow softly against the darkened city. Behind curtained windows, life continues quietly, steady, slow, and calm, a gentle promise of rest and renewal until the morning light. As night falls deeper across the London skyline, a hush spreads across the tenements. The last traces of the evening glow fade from the horizon, leaving the city wrapped in a blanket of calm. The soft rustle of the wind through the narrow streets becomes the only sound that punctuates the quiet of this slowing world. The night is still, almost reverent in its peace, as if the city itself has paused to rest. Within the tenement walls, life continues, but now it is a quieter rhythm, a rhythm suited for the evening hours. The loud clattering of carts and the bustling of vendors have long since faded. The evening hours now belong to the more private, intimate moments. The time between day and sleep, where the ordinary tasks of life take on a slower, more deliberate pace. It is in this space that the heart of the tenement lies, in the shared, quiet spaces where lives unfold in the gentlest of motions. In the small rooms that make up the heart of the flat, the light from the oil lamps flickers softly, casting warm shadows against the walls. The light dances across faces and rooms, softening their lines and edges, blurring the stark contrast between reality and memory. There is a quiet warmth in the air, a comforting stillness, as if the world outside has softened and the room itself has become a little cocoon. The slow rhythm of evening tasks echoes throughout the space. A kettle is placed on the stove, its soft bubbling the only sound in a room where everything else seems to pause. A woman moves quietly about, wiping down the table or folding the laundry she has carefully washed earlier in the day. Her movements are measured and unhurried, as if she is savoring the end of the day and the simple, soothing ritual of putting things in their place. The soft scent of laundry soap and fresh linens fills the air, mingling with the faint smoky aroma of the coal fire burning slowly in the hearth. This is a comforting smell, one that speaks to the very heart of what it means to be at home. It's not the sharp smell of freshly baked bread or a lavish meal, but a quiet, grounding scent that settles deep into the soul. It smells like care, like time well spent. Nearby, a father might be repairing a pair of worn shoes, his hands moving with careful precision, making small, steady stitches through the leather. The work is not urgent, nor is it loud. His hands, worn and calloused from years of labor, move in a quiet rhythm, each stitch a small act of preservation, each movement a deliberate, calming gesture. There is something almost meditative in this work, a slow, repetitive motion that brings a sense of calm to the room. A child, tired but content, sits in a corner with a small book or a toy, occasionally looking up to see what the adults are doing. The child's presence fills the room with a soft, unspoken energy. Their slow movements, the innocent way they observe the world around them, add to the quiet pulse of the evening. The child, like the adults, seems to fall into the rhythm of the night, a rhythm that speaks of comfort, safety, and the unhurried passage of time. The time for large, hurried gestures has passed. Now, it is the time for small, intimate acts, for the brushing of crumbs from the table, the lighting of the final lamp for the night, the careful folding of a blanket, or the gentle rocking of a cradle. These small actions may seem insignificant, but in this moment, they are everything. They are the rhythm that carries the day to its peaceful end. As the night deepens, the rooms grow dimmer, the shadows growing longer, stretching slowly across walls and floors. Outside, the distant hum of the city becomes a low murmur, an indistinct whisper of a world that still moves, but in a slower, softer way. The city seems to have folded into itself, the once noisy streets now quiet and still. The soft murmur of the gas lamps can be heard as they flicker on, casting gentle pools of light along the pavement, but even these sounds feel distant, far away from the world inside the tenements. A neighbor might be heard walking slowly down the hall, their footsteps muffled by the thick stone walls. Perhaps there's the sound of a door creaking open, a soft murmur of voices passing between apartments, or the faint rustling of paper as a letter is being written in another room. These sounds are soft, unobtrusive, and they weave into the silence of the night like threads of a quiet tapestry, telling the story of a world that moves at a different pace. In one flat, a couple may settle down to share a quiet meal, their conversation low and gentle, the clink of cutlery against the table the only sound. In another, a woman prepares for bed, brushing out her long hair in front of a small mirror, the movement steady and soothing. The quiet night air seems to calm all things, the day's worries slipping away like the evening mist. As the last bits of daylight fade completely, the stars begin to appear in the sky above, small pinpricks of light against the velvet darkness. The moon rises slowly, its pale glow spilling softly over the rooftops, casting long, silver shadows that stretch across the city below. The tenements, like quiet sentinels, stand tall and still, their brick faces softened by the moonlight, their windows glowing faintly from within. Inside, the final preparations for the night are made. Beds are turned down with soft, steady movements. Blankets are drawn up, and pillows fluffed. In the silence, the room feels like a small sanctuary, a place where the world can be left outside, where sleep can come gently, without haste. The soft flicker of the oil lamp begins to dim, its light waning as the last few moments of wakefulness slip away. In the final moments before sleep, there is a stillness that fills the room, a peace that settles over everyone within it. The sounds of the day are long gone, replaced by the quiet rhythm of breathing, the steady sound of air filling and leaving the lungs. Each breath is deep, slow, and unhurried. The rhythmic pulse of the night wraps around everything, a soft, comforting embrace that brings everything to rest. Outside, the city sleeps. The gas lamps flicker faintly, their warm light softening the edges of the darkened streets. The tenements, sturdy and enduring, stand silent, their windows glowing faintly like fireflies in the night. The sounds of the world have softened, leaving only the quiet murmurs of the night. Inside each flat, the final flickers of the oil lamps go out, and the room is swallowed by darkness. But it is a peaceful darkness, one that carries the weight of the day's small triumphs and quiet joys, now surrendered to the night. And as the tenements breathe in the cool night air, each flat, each room, rests in the calm rhythm of the world. The city may be vast, but within these small, close-knit spaces, the world feels quiet, intimate, and deeply, unhurriedly at peace. As the night settles fully over London, and the tenements grow quiet, the stillness inside reveals a different kind of life, a life lived in quiet corners, in the small spaces where moments of solitude and reflection quietly bloom. The bustle and noise of the day have long faded, replaced by the gentle rhythm of evening and night, a time when the city's pulse slows and those who dwell within the tenements find space to pause and breathe. In the dim glow of an oil lamp, a single figure might sit quietly at a small wooden table, their hands folded gently before them, lost in thought. The soft amber light casts long shadows, smoothing the rough edges of a worn face, highlighting lines that speak of years spent working, caring, and dreaming. This moment is still, a pause in the steady rhythm of life, a breath taken in the silence between day and night. The corners of these small flats often hold treasures of memory and comfort. A well-worn book with yellowed pages, a faded photograph pinned carefully to the wall, a small trinket passed down through generations. These objects seem to hold more than just their physical form. They carry stories, whispers of lives lived and loves remembered, silent companions in the quiet hours. The gentle ticking of a clock, slow and steady, marks time without urgency. Its soft, repetitive sound blends into the background, becoming part of the night's soothing soundtrack. Time here is elastic, stretching gently, unhurried, allowing each moment to be felt fully, without rush or pressure. It invites those within to sink deeper into stillness, to let the mind wander calmly among memories and quiet hopes. In a different room, a small child might clutch a rag doll close, their eyes heavy with sleep but still filled with a quiet wonder. The child's breathing slows, matching the soft cadence of the night. Their small hands relax, and the tension of the day slips away, replaced by a gentle peace. The quiet presence of the child, so trusting and unguarded, seems to hold a promise of innocence and renewal even in the midst of the worn, bustling city. Nearby, a mother might sit by the window, watching the faint glow of gas lamps along the street below. Her hands rest in her lap, fingers intertwined softly. Her gaze is distant, thoughtful, reflecting on the day's labors, the people she loves, and the quiet hopes for tomorrow. The window frames the outside world, the still, darkened streets, the slow dance of shadows cast by the flickering lamps, the occasional flicker of a star in the night sky. The window itself becomes a quiet threshold between two worlds, the inner world of the tenement, warm and intimate, and the vast, shadowed city beyond. The contrast between these spaces, one small, lived in and tender, the other wide and mysterious, deepens the sense of solitude and reflection. The window invites contemplation, a moment to feel both connected and separate, held and free. In the kitchen, the last embers of the fire glow softly in the hearth, casting a gentle warmth over the room. A kettle sits quietly, its whistle long faded. The air is cool but comforting, filled with the faint scent of ash and dried herbs. Here, the everyday and the eternal seem to merge. The simple acts of warming water or tending the fire become meditative rituals, slow gestures that ground the spirit. The tenement itself, with its thick brick walls and narrow halls, seems to hold the echoes of these quiet moments. The building breathes softly with the steady pulse of life contained within, the rise and fall of chests, the whispered murmur of voices, the gentle creak of wood and stone settling. It is a living structure, a keeper of stories and secrets, wrapped in the calm of night. A solitary figure might walk slowly through a room, their footsteps barely audible on the worn floorboards. Each step is measured, deliberate, part of the evening's gentle rhythm. There is a grace in this slow movement, a dance of shadow and light, as the person moves from one quiet corner to another, touching familiar objects, pausing briefly to rest a hand on a table or a chair. In moments like these, the vastness of the city seems to shrink, contained within the intimate scale of the tenement flat. The grand histories and sweeping events that shape the world beyond fade into the background, replaced by the tender details of everyday life. The worn upholstery of a chair, the faint smell of lavender on a handkerchief, the soft warmth of a blanket folded neatly at the foot of a bed, these small details become everything. There is a profound beauty in this simplicity, a slow unfolding of life's quiet joys and gentle sorrows. It is a beauty that requires no grand gestures or loud proclamations, only the quiet attention to the present moment, the patient witnessing of time's gentle passage. The night deepens further, drawing a soft veil over the tenement. The lamps burn lower, their light growing dimmer but no less comforting. Shadows grow longer, stretching like quiet fingers across walls and floors. The world outside sleeps, wrapped in the stillness of night, while inside, the tenement holds its own secret life of calm and reflection. As the night continues, even the smallest sounds seem magnified, the soft sigh of a settling house, the faint rustle of fabric, the slow turning of a page in a book left open on a table. These sounds are like whispers, reminders of presence and being, of lives lived fully even in the humblest of places. The quiet hours invite thoughts to wander gently, memories to rise softly to the surface, and worries to be laid down with care. It is a time to be alone without loneliness, to be still without emptiness, to find comfort in the slow, steady rhythm of breathing and the gentle glow of light. And as the night stretches on, the tenement rests with its inhabitants, wrapped in a shared solitude that is both personal and communal. The walls hold the quiet, the air holds the warmth, and the light holds the stories of resilience, of love, of the gentle persistence of everyday life. This is the rhythm of nightfall in the Victorian tenement, a rhythm of quiet corners and reflective moments, of small lights shining softly in the darkness, of lives unfolding slowly and peacefully in the heart of the city. As night settles fully upon Victorian London, the tenement begins to shift. The hustle of the day recedes, and what remains is a hush that spreads through the air like velvet. Gone is the clang of iron horseshoes against cobblestones, the shrill cries of chimney sweeps, and the endless shuffle of hurried boots on pavement. In their place comes a gentler rhythm, a softer tone that invites stillness, quietude, and reflection. The city does not sleep entirely, but in the walls of the tenement, a different tempo takes hold. Within these aged brick walls, sound does not disappear but transforms. The scraping of chairs along wooden floors slows. The muted voices of neighbors, once loud and expressive in the daylight, now soften to murmurs barely discernible through paper-thin walls. The building breathes. The people within it adjust. And the tenement becomes not merely a shelter, but a living instrument, each creak and whisper part of an evening symphony. A kettle begins to hum on the iron stove in one flat. It does not whistle abruptly, but sings with a slow, spiraling breath. The sound curls up into the low rafters, fills the room like mist. A woman stirs her tea slowly, the gentle clink of spoon against ceramic a kind of metronome in the quiet. The tiny sound, in this moment, is not insignificant. It echoes through silence like a ripple across a still pond. In the room beside her, a child hums softly while tracing fingers along the seams of a tattered quilt. The tune is not quite a lullaby, not quite a song, but somewhere in between, a wordless expression of calm contentment. It rises and falls with the child's breath, innocent and unhurried, a melody carried nowhere in particular. The hallway outside offers its own chorus. Footsteps come slowly now, no longer hasty or clipped. Heavy-soled boots strike the floorboards in a slow, mindful cadence. The floor creaks in response, not complaining but acknowledging the weight of another day completed. These familiar groans are comforting. They tell the listener that life continues, quietly and unbroken. A man in his small room near the stairwell coughs once, a dry, polite sound muffled quickly by a handkerchief. He settles into his chair with a long, deliberate sigh, the wooden frame groaning softly under him. His pipe crackles as it catches flame, and the delicate hiss of tobacco burning adds its voice to the ensemble. He does not speak. There is no need. Outside the window, the sounds of the city are like ghosts, distant carriage wheels turning in the fog, a far-off bell tower striking 10, the occasional bark of a dog echoing through alleyways. These sounds drift into the tenement gently, brushing against the glass panes, reminding those within of the world beyond, but never breaking the calm. A baby stirs in a cradle, its motion setting off a slow rhythm of wood against wood. The cradle rocks back and forth in soft protest, a long-known lullaby of motion. No one rushes to hush it. The sound belongs here, as much a part of the building as the bricks and mortar. It is the music of life continuing, gently and persistently. In a kitchen, a loaf of bread is sliced. The knife drags through the crust with a satisfying crunch, then glides through the soft inside. Each slice falls with a muted thud onto a wooden board. A pot bubbles faintly, the lid rattling with a barely audible tick each time a bubble breaks the surface. These sounds are deliberate, unhurried. They are not filler. They are not meaningless. They are the day winding down, the house exhaling. There is something sacred in this simplicity, something that does not require words to be understood. It is rhythm, it is breath, it is peace. A teenager, perhaps 16, plucks slowly at the strings of a cheap guitar. The tune is aimless, exploratory. Notes hang in the air like dust in the lamplight. They do not need to resolve into a song, their presence is enough. They are music, in and of themselves, offered with no expectation and received without critique. An old woman rinses laundry in a tin basin, and the water swishes in response. The soap bubbles rise and pop gently as she squeezes the fabric. Her fingers move with practiced ease, the effort quiet and dignified. She hums to herself, not for performance, but from instinct, a sound passed down from her mother, and her mother's mother, humming to the same rhythm of soaked cloth and memory. The gas lamp flickers once and settles, casting a slow-moving shadow along the wall. The whisper of its flame is nearly imperceptible, but still present, a soft, living sound. Beneath it, someone turns the pages of a worn book. The paper rasps under careful fingers. A paragraph is read and reread slowly. The content is not as important as the act. The sound of turning pages is as welcome as the words themselves. A distant train whistle moans through the night, faint and far off. It does not disturb. Rather, it anchors the present moment within a larger world. Someone hears it and smiles faintly, remembering another place, another time. The sound drifts and fades, leaving only its memory behind. These sounds are deliberate, unhurried. They are not filler. They are not meaningless. They are the day winding down, the house exhaling. There is something sacred in this simplicity, something that does not require words to be understood. It is rhythm, it is breath, it is peace. A teenager, perhaps 16, plucks slowly at the strings of a cheap guitar. The tune is aimless, exploratory. Notes hang in the air like dust in the lamplight. They do not need to resolve into a song, their presence is enough. They are music, in and of themselves, offered with no expectation and received without critique. An old woman rinses laundry in a tin basin, and the water swishes in response. The soap bubbles rise and pop gently as she squeezes the fabric. Her fingers move with practiced ease, the effort quiet and dignified. She hums to herself, not for performance, but from instinct, a sound passed down from her mother, and her mother's mother, humming to the same rhythm of soaked cloth and memory. The gas lamp flickers once and settles, casting a slow-moving shadow along the wall. The whisper of its flame is nearly imperceptible, but still present, a soft, living sound. Beneath it, someone turns the pages of a worn book. The paper rasps under careful fingers. A paragraph is read and reread slowly. The content is not as important as the act. The sound of turning pages is as welcome as the words themselves. A distant train whistle moans through the night, faint and far off. It does not disturb. Rather, it anchors the present moment within a larger world. Someone hears it and smiles faintly, remembering another place, another time. The sound drifts and fades, leaving only its memory behind. In a room with no light but the hearth, a young couple sits together without speaking. Their silence is not empty, it is full, brimming with unspoken connection. The only sound is the shift of their bodies on the bench, the soft brush of wool against wool, the heartbeat-like thump of their feet against the floorboards. Eventually, the building seems to hold its breath. Not because it must, but because the night asks it to. Even the wind outside slows. Even the mice behind the walls grow still. And in this quiet, something sacred is found, not in grand events or stirring speeches, but in the everyday symphony of lives lived slowly, thoughtfully, and together. This is the music of the tenement. And it continues long after we close our eyes. As the evening deepens into true night, the tempo of the tenement slows further, almost imperceptibly. The heavy hush of the building takes on new depth, and within that hush, gentle movements become profound. There is a reverence in these hours, a quiet closing of the day's story. Where once there was bustling preparation, now there is unwinding. In Victorian London, the rituals of nightfall carry an air of both practicality and gentle grace. A mother, seated on a low stool by a dying fire, brushes out her daughter's hair. The strokes are slow, steady, and rhythmic, each pass of the bristles smoothing not just hair but worry. The girl's shoulders slump slightly with the comfort of the routine. Her eyes, heavy with sleep, begin to flutter closed. A lullaby might follow, low, melodic, half-sung, half-whispered, a tune passed down through generations, its origins long forgotten, but its notes embedded in the fibers of the family. In a nearby flat, a widower pours water from a ceramic jug into a matching bowl. The splash is subdued, careful. He wets a cloth, wrings it out with aged hands, and dabs it over his face. The cool water stirs the senses, cleansing the day's grime, but also marking the transition from activity to rest. His motions are deliberate, not rushed, respecting the sanctity of this time. Candles are extinguished one by one throughout the building. A girl leans forward, cupping her palm around a flickering flame, then pinches it softly between her fingers. The room darkens, and a wisp of smoke curls upward in the air. She watches it for a moment, entranced, before pulling a quilt around her shoulders and retreating to her bed, the chill of the floor slipping away beneath heavy linens. The tenement's narrow corridors hold new sounds now. A door creaks shut with patient slowness. A soft latch clicks into place. Footsteps shuffle rather than stride. The walls, long witnesses to louder hours, now receive these quiet sounds with tenderness. Every echo is hushed by age and wood. A father kneels beside a modest cot. He whispers a prayer, not out of strict devotion but of habit and hope. His fingers trace the edge of the blanket as he recites words meant more for peace than petition. Nearby, his wife folds a piece of mended cloth and sets it in a basket, the fibers still warm from her hands. In a back room, a small oil lamp burns low, its light dancing on the pages of a worn book. A schoolteacher reads slowly, his eyes trailing the lines with appreciation rather than urgency. Each word feels savored, like a sip of warm tea. He reads aloud to himself, the sound of his voice so soft it barely lifts above the hiss of the lamp. Downstairs, in a corner kitchen, the embers of the stove are tended. A kettle, emptied long ago, is left atop it as a placeholder for the morning to come. The ashes glow like distant stars, and the woman who sits watching them does not stir. She is remembering something, perhaps a lost friend, a childhood summer, or simply the rhythm of another day gone by. In every flat, beds are filled one by one. Mattresses sag, but their comfort lies in familiarity. Quilts are drawn up to chins. A child clutches a handmade doll. An elderly man tucks a scarf under his chin as he lies flat, a habit from colder winters. There are no alarms to set. The day ends not with a schedule, but with instinct. Windows are latched tight against the fog. The cold fingers of night tap lightly on glass panes, but they are kept at bay by thick curtains and heavier stillness. Outside, a lamplighter passes one final time. His pole lifts the flame to the street lamp, and then he vanishes into the mist, leaving a circle of orange glow behind. The tenement breathes. It sighs through its beams and bricks. It knows sleep well, has held it for countless lives. It absorbs the quiet, stores it, even, as though cradling the dreams of every tenant in its wooden bones. A distant sound, a carriage wheel turning, the faint call of a constable making his round, floats in from the street and fades before it fully arrives. The night does not resist it but swallows it gently, making room for more silence. In the uppermost room, an artist, still in his clothes, lies staring at the ceiling. His hands are ink-stained, his fingers twitching with the memory of sketching. He does not sleep yet but exists in a space between awareness and dreaming. His thoughts blend with the shadows on the ceiling, sketches of memory and desire. Two girls in a shared bed whisper, their words indistinct. Their laughter is muffled into pillows. They speak of what-ifs and maybes, of things that feel far away and impossibly near. Then, one voice disappears. A few minutes later, the other. In the silence that remains, the last fire fades to ash. A final breath is exhaled. And then, stillness. True, complete stillness. Sleep takes the tenement gently. It does not rush, does not claim. It eases into corners, wraps itself in blankets, slips beneath doors. It touches brow and cheek, finds every heartbeat, and rocks it into softness. This is the hour of dreams. Not grand ones. Simple ones. A loaf of bread that does not go stale. A letter arriving from across the sea. A summer that never ends. And in this quiet, as the moon drifts higher above the rooftops, the tenement holds its people close, each soul suspended in slumber, each dream a fragile light inside the great, breathing hush of night. Here, the rituals of rest are sacred. And as the hours unfold, uninterrupted, the tenement sleeps with them. Still, steadfast, and kind. In the depth of the Victorian night, once the rituals of rest have been lovingly completed and stillness takes hold of the tenement, something quieter yet lingers in the shadows. For not all who lie in bed sleep without pause. As the world softens and sighs, the mind sometimes stirs, recalling troubles unspoken or listening for noises not yet named. This is the hour when fears and comforts sit side by side, when the smallest creak can become a tale, and shadows on the wall take on lives of their own. A young boy curls beneath a coarse woolen blanket, his face buried in a thin pillow. He has heard a story earlier that day, perhaps told by a sibling or a neighbor's child, about a ghostly figure said to walk the alleys near Spitalfields, appearing at midnight to those who dared to watch from windows. He tries to forget it now, but each passing breeze, each rustle of curtain, seems to echo the tale. His eyes skim the room, pausing on the corner where moonlight throws a crooked shadow across the peeling wallpaper. He tells himself it's just the shape of a coat hanging on a peg. Still, he pulls the blanket tighter. Across the hall, an older woman rests with her back to the wall, eyes closed but alert. She has lived many decades, through grief and war, through hunger and recovery. She fears no ghosts, but in the night, her memories become vivid companions. She sees her late husband's face as he looked on their wedding day, young and full of dreams. She hears again the laughter of her first child, lost to illness one harsh winter. These memories are bittersweet, pain softened by time, love preserved in silence. The night does not frighten her. It keeps her company. In another flat, a man stirs restlessly. His breathing is shallow, his hands twitch in his sleep. By day he works at the docks, lifting cargo, shouting over the din, always in motion. But at night, his body remembers the weight he carries, not of crates or barrels, but of burdens unspoken. Debts, disappointments, the ache of a back that's been bent too long. The room is silent, but in his dreams there is noise, a roar of wind on the Thames, the groan of ropes tightening on wood. He turns over, the straw mattress squeaking beneath him. Even the building itself joins in the conversation of night. A floorboard cracks quietly as it adjusts to the cooling air. The wind sighs through a narrow gap in the windowsill. A faint knock, perhaps a branch tapping glass, or perhaps just the murmur of old brick settling into deeper stillness. These are not frightening sounds, not truly. They are reminders that the tenement, too, is alive. That it shelters, watches, listens. Some find solace in the darkness. A seamstress, who spends her days hunched and silent, finds peace once the lamp is out. In her room, she no longer measures seams or counts stitches. She closes her eyes and imagines the world as fabric, soft, endless, floating. Her fears dissolve into dream work. The prick of the needle is forgotten. Others lie awake beside their sleeping kin, watching the slow rise and fall of a chest, the quiet flick of fingers against sheet. There is comfort in the presence of another, in the shared space of breath. A young wife listens to her husband's breathing and matches it with her own. In sync they drift. In sync they stay. Children, more sensitive to the dark, may cry out once or twice. A mother, half asleep, rises and soothes with a whisper. She places a palm on a damp forehead, hums a lullaby learned from her own mother. It is a lullaby with no words, just a pattern of low, tuneful breath. The child calms. The night absorbs the sound. There are superstitions here, of course. Above one door, an iron horseshoe has been nailed, open side up, to catch good luck. Dried lavender hangs from a shelf to ward off bad dreams. A shard of broken mirror is tucked beneath a bed, believed to reflect harm away. These little beliefs, passed from tongue to ear and back again, offer small anchors of reassurance. In the farthest flat, a man with a limp and a poet's heart lies awake with pen in hand. He cannot sleep for the stories that arrive in his mind at this hour. He scribbles in a notebook, the only light coming from the window's silvery glow. His writing is quiet, not meant for the world just yet. It's enough that the ink flows, that the thoughts are caught. The night is his muse, both shadow and lamp. The quiet continues, and with it, dreams spread through the building like mist. Some are vivid, a mother dreaming of sunlight in a green meadow, her childhood home intact and bright. Others are subtle, barely formed images of color and warmth, a memory of laughter, a sense of safety. The fears of the first hour have softened. Now, comfort dominates. The tenement, in its age and silence, has become a keeper of these nocturnal tales. Its bricks have heard both weeping and whispering. Its floors have felt both stomping and tiptoes. And now, in the tender dark, it listens closely. A mouse skitters beneath a cupboard. A breeze rattles a shutter. A drop of water falls from a washbasin tap. The night is not silent, but its sounds are soft, reverent. They do not interrupt, they accompany. The fear that once perched on the shoulder now rests quietly beside the bed. It is not gone, but it is understood. Even shadows are softened here. Even sorrow has its lullaby. And so another hour passes. The boy who feared the coat-peg ghost sleeps now. The seamstress dreams of gardens. The poet has set his pen aside, and even the restless dockworker finds stillness. All are held in the gentle hush of the tenement. In these hours before dawn, the building is at its most peaceful. Nothing stirs, nothing intrudes. The world outside may be large, uncertain, full of sounds and stories yet to come. But here, for now, in the embrace of old walls and warm beds, there is only rest. The tenement watches over them, faithful in its silence. And within its arms, shadow and comfort live side by side, unafraid, waiting for the morning together. It is long past midnight in the Victorian tenement, and while most of its residents sleep wrapped in the warmth of dreams and threadbare blankets, the world beyond its windows continues in quiet motion. Outside, under the weight of London's heavy sky, the street breathes a different rhythm, a slow, pulsing quiet, filled with texture and softened echoes. This chapter belongs to the street, to the shadows and silhouettes that remain, to the life that stirs when others rest. A single gas lamp glows at the end of the narrow street, its light diffused by the lingering fog that rolls in from the Thames. The lamp's halo flickers gently, touched by the dampness in the air. Moths, like tiny spirits, flit and hover in its warmth, and every few minutes, a droplet of condensation falls from the iron hood to the cobblestone below with a muted plink. From a high window, the curtain moves slightly. Not pushed by wind, but drawn back by a curious hand. An elderly tenant, too accustomed to insomnia to sleep deeply, watches the world from the crack between lace and sill. Her eyes, aged but clear, observe the street as one might read a slow novel. She sees everything. A cart rattles softly down the lane. Its wheels turn slowly, their iron rims clicking over the uneven stones. It is a baker's cart, returning empty after the early delivery of bread to nearby inns and workhouses. The driver nods in and out of sleep, his cap pulled low, reins loose in his gloved hands. The horse moves without command, knowing the way home from memory. Further along, a lamplighter makes his rounds. He wears a thick coat, buttoned high, and carries his long pole with practiced ease. He pauses beneath each lamp, extinguishing the small flames one by one. With each light that disappears, the street grows more cloaked, more still. The lamplighter hums to himself, a quiet tune barely carried on the mist. Down a side alley, the muted clink of glass against metal suggests a scavenger at work, someone gathering discarded bottles, careful not to make too much noise. These figures are common in the London night, moving like shadows, performing small labors unseen by most. Their lives are shaped by necessity, their presence marked only by the faint sound of careful hands at work. A constable passes, his boots echoing gently in the distance. He walks at an even pace, his silhouette sharp beneath the dim gaslight. He pauses occasionally to check a door or peer into the darker recesses of alleyways. He knows this neighborhood. Its secrets, its safety, its silences. A cat, sleek and gray, trots along the ledge of a low wall. It pauses near the butcher's shop, sniffs the air, then leaps silently down. Its tail flicks once, then disappears into the gloom. These nighttime animals are part of the street's fabric, as much as stone and lamp. The air smells of coal smoke and river damp, of bread crust and old wood. These scents linger in the early hours, forming a tapestry that is invisible yet palpable to those who breathe it. London's night has a scent all its own, heavy, dense, oddly comforting. Somewhere in the distance, a clock chimes too. Its bell is soft, worn by time. It marks not the hour of waking, but of deepest rest. It is a signal not for action, but for reflection, for the gentle settling of breath, for the awareness of time passing without urgency. Behind the glass of the tenement's windows, a child stirs in sleep. She murmurs something, her voice too faint to decipher. A sibling rolls over. The night presses in around them like a blanket, protective and still. Outside again, a man leans against a lamppost, his hat pulled low over his brow. He is waiting. For whom, no one can say. His coat is too thin for the chill, but he stands without complaint. Now and then, he checks a pocket watch, the silver catching a glint of lamp glow. He remains still for long minutes, then finally turns, his footsteps fading into the fog. The buildings that flank the street are asleep too, in their way. Windows dark, shutters drawn. Yet their facades wear the marks of the day, a smear of coal dust, a smudge of soot, the faint scent of stew escaping from a crooked chimney. They do not need rest, but they hold the rest of others within their walls. The night is a keeper of secrets. Lovers' whispers echo faintly through the wood. A letter, tucked into a doorstep crack for secrecy, waits unseen. A beggar, finding shelter beneath the overhang of a boarded shop, draws a blanket tighter. Each moment passes without drama, but each is a story. As the hour creeps closer to 3, the fog thickens. The street narrows into softness, lines blurred, edges faded. It is the closest thing this city has to silence. This is the hour when time pauses, when even memories rest. And still, the gas lamp burns. Fewer moths now, fewer footsteps. But it shines, steady, yellow and warm. A beacon in the mist. A comfort to no one in particular, and everyone at once. The elderly woman at the window yawns, her hand resting on the curtain. She takes one last look at the street, nods to herself as if assured of something, and lets the fabric fall. The world outside slips from view. The gaslight remains, but no longer watched. The street, in all its quiet life, goes on. Until morning. And inside the tenement, sleep holds its gentle reign. Before the first crow of a rooster, before the earliest footstep echoes in the street, and well before the sun dares to rise over the chimneys of East London, one figure is already at work. The baker. His day begins in silence, amid flour-dusted surfaces and the steady heat of the fire. In this quiet hour, he becomes both craftsman and caretaker, preparing nourishment for a city still asleep. The bakery itself is modest, a squat brick building nestled at the end of a narrow alleyway, its front window covered by a thin cloth to keep the warm light in and the early chill out. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of yeast and coal smoke. Wooden racks, worn smooth by years of use, line the walls. Sacks of flour rest in a corner, tied with twine and speckled with powder from previous mornings. The baker, a man in his 50s with strong arms and kind eyes, arrives before 4. He moves with the ease of long practice, not hurried but efficient. The first task is always the fire. He opens the iron oven door and checks the embers from the night before. If they've died down too far, he adds coal from a nearby bin, carefully layering it to spark fresh life. As the oven comes alive, the bakery begins to warm. He prepares his station with almost ceremonial care. A wide wooden worktable is swept clean, the rolling pin placed at its edge, the dough trough filled with water and checked for temperature. He measures flour with cupped hands, adding it to a great mixing bowl with water and yeast. Salt follows. The ingredients, so simple in their parts, are sacred in their union. He begins to knead. The dough resists at first, then slowly yields. His hands press, fold, and turn the mass with rhythm and care. There is a sound to this labor. A soft slap of dough against board, the whisper of flour against cloth, the occasional creak of the wooden bench. Outside, the world remains still, but inside the bakery, this music plays gently. The dough is left to rise. He covers it with a cloth and wipes his hands on a linen apron. There is always a brief pause in this moment, a cup of tea, poured slowly and drunk standing near the warm oven. He listens for the morning, for the first rattle of a milk cart, the distant clang of a gate latch, the scurry of a rat across the alley. The world stirs slowly, as if waking from a deep, heavy dream. As the dough grows, so does the light. The darkness outside softens from ink to charcoal, then to a deep blue-gray. The fog lingers, hanging low around the rooftops, but the bakery glows like a lantern. The warmth seeps through the bricks, the scent escapes into the air, and the alley becomes a corridor of comfort. When the dough is ready, he shapes it with practiced grace. Loaves are formed by hand, round cobs, long batons, small rolls pinched and twisted just so. Each is placed gently on a wooden peel, then transferred to the oven's belly. The heat is steady, the timing intuitive. He does not need a clock. He reads the dough by its scent, its sound, the way the crust forms beneath his fingertips. As the bread bakes, the smell deepens. It becomes rich and golden, a scent that carries down alleys and across courtyards. It is the smell of morning, of home, of something familiar and good. By 5, the first knock comes at the back door, a boy from the nearby boarding house, sent early to collect rolls for the day. The baker smiles, hands over a cloth-covered basket, and sends the boy off with a nod. Soon others follow. A servant girl from a wealthier home, collecting fresh bread for breakfast trays. A dockworker's wife, wrapped in shawls, her face lined with sleep but softened by the smell of the bakery. She offers a coin and receives a warm loaf, still steaming in its brown paper wrap. She holds it to her chest for warmth as she walks away. The baker speaks little. His words are few, his gestures kind. He does not rush, even as more come. He moves like someone who knows that the most important things cannot be hurried, that bread, like comfort, must rise slowly. Behind him, the racks begin to fill. Dozens of loaves in neat rows, crusts gleaming, flour dusted, each one slightly different, each one the result of his touch. The work continues, more dough, more kneading, more fire-fed heat. The day is beginning, but for him, it is already halfway spent. By 6, the city is waking. Footsteps echo louder now. Voices rise in greeting. The fog begins to lift, and the light stretches farther down the alley. The bakery door swings open more often, each visitor greeted with warmth that goes beyond the temperature of the bread. The baker does not think of his work as art, but it is. In the rhythm of his labor, in the way he reads the dough, in the timing of the bake, there is a quiet beauty. It is the art of care, of routine made sacred by repetition, of nourishment shaped by hand and heart. He wipes his brow, dusts his apron. The last batch of loaves is removed from the oven, their crusts cracking gently in the cool air. He lets them rest, steam rising from the edges. The scent is thick now, filling every crevice of the building. Outside, children begin to walk to school. Workers trudge toward factories. The street becomes busier, filled with noise and movement. But inside the bakery, time remains slow. The baker leans against the counter for a moment, sipping from a chipped mug of tea. He listens to the street, to the murmur of voices, to the life he helps to feed. Another day has begun. His part in it nearly done. But for now, for a few more minutes, he watches the light spill across the worktable, illuminating flower prints like memories on wood. And somewhere, in homes and tenements nearby, bread is broken, buttered, and shared. A quiet offering of comfort. A beginning made warm. The baker smiles, returns to his work, and prepares for the next morning, already rising in the folds of flour and fire. The first rays of daylight stretch gently across the rooftops of the tenement, golden and soft, like silk drawn across an old wooden floor. Dawn arrives not with a rush, but with a careful hand, easing the world from sleep into the arms of another day. And inside the brick walls of the Victorian London tenement, life stirs once more. There is no alarm bell, no sudden clang. Just the quiet shift of light on the wall. The gradual warming of the air. The low creak of floorboards as someone turns in bed. The first chapter of morning is always one of silence and breath. In one corner room, a mother rises first. Her movements are slow, practiced, barely stirring the child still curled beside her. She wraps a shawl around her shoulders, worn thin with use but still soft to the touch. She steps lightly across the floor, her bare feet meeting cold boards with familiar grace. In the dimness, she begins the first task of the day, coaxing the fire back to life. The embers in the hearth are gray and soft, like crushed velvet. She leans down, adds kindling, then breathes gently against the ash. A flicker. Then a glow. The fire returns slowly, with gratitude, and its warmth begins to crawl across the room. In the next room, a man stirs from sleep. He stretches, sighs, and lets his legs drop over the side of the bed. His boots wait near the door, lined up neatly the night before. Before putting them on, he stands still a moment, listening. To the murmur of voices through the walls. To the quiet thud of a broom below. To the growing song of birds beyond the cracked windowpane. Children begin to wake. One rolls over, blinking sleep from his eyes. Another calls softly for her mother, voice still heavy with dreams. Down the corridor, a baby's cry echoes briefly, then fades into the rhythm of a lullaby hummed low and sweet. The corridor fills with footsteps, some fast, some slow. Doors creak open. Water sloshes into basins. Spoons clink against tin cups. These sounds, ordinary and faint, weave a gentle symphony of awakening. The smells begin to change. First, the damp chill of night. Then, the faint scent of coal smoke. And slowly, the aroma of bread from the downstairs bakery rises like a blessing, filling the stairwell with the promise of sustenance. A girl brushes her hair by the window, each stroke even and calm. Her eyes linger on the street below, where shopkeepers begin to open shutters and sweep stoops. She watches them with quiet interest, the way one watches the tide, steady, familiar, inevitable. The tenement's narrow stairwell, once silent and shadowed, now carries life in every creak. A boy races downward, chased by a sister laughing behind him. An older tenant descends carefully, one hand on the rail, nodding politely to a neighbor ascending with a kettle. In the communal washroom, a woman wrings out laundry, her hands red from the cold water. She does not complain. She hums instead, a tune she learned from her mother, soft and slow. Beside her, another woman folds linens, smoothing each one with care, creating small pockets of order. A young man laces his boots and checks his pocket watch. He is due at the docks by 7, and he knows the walk will be brisk in the morning air. Before leaving, he kisses his mother's forehead. She nods without speaking, her hand lingering on his arm as he turns toward the door. Out on the street, the city stretches and yawns. Horses pull carts through mist. Street lamps flicker out one by one. Market stalls begin to bloom like flowers, baskets of potatoes, strings of onions, crates of fish still shining from the river. Inside the tenement, tea is poured, porridge stirred. A child's boots are tied. A ribbon is fixed in a girl's hair. These moments pass quietly but carry weight. They are the spine of the day, the gentle, consistent pulse of a home that holds many lives. As the light strengthens, it reveals details: the texture of wallpaper faded by time, the worn arms of a wooden chair, the patch sewn carefully on a woolen coat. Each detail is a record, a story, a memory kept alive by presence and repetition. By 8, most of the residents have stepped out into the waking city. Some to work, others to errands. A few remain behind, the elderly, the ill, the mothers tending young ones. But even in their stillness, there is motion. The sweep of a broom. The folding of cloth. The turning of a page. The tenement is never silent, never still. But in the hours of morning, it holds a special kind of peace. A quiet dignity. A softness that belies the hardship it contains. It is not a grand place, nor is it new. But it breathes. It listens. It holds. And so the chapter closes. Not with an ending, but with a continuation. Another day begun. Another thread added to the weave. The tenement, in its quiet way, remains a keeper of lives. A witness to waking. A shelter for those who rise to meet the dawn. Outside, the city hums. Inside, the fire glows. And the tenement, our old, familiar companion, stands still, as always, at the heart of it all. And now, we've come to the end of our quiet walk through the tenement. We've seen the first lights of morning, the warmth of daily routines, the soft hush of life unfolding behind closed doors. It's time now to rest. But if you're still awake, don't worry. There's no rush. You don't need to do anything at all. Just stay where you are. Let your eyes get heavier. Let your thoughts slow down. In a moment, we'll leave you with the sound of a gentle fire, burning low, steady, safe. If you're still awake, just listen for a while. The soft crackle, the sparks drifting upward, it's all here to help you fall asleep. And if you've already drifted off, that's just fine too. We'll keep the fire going a little longer. Thank you for spending this quiet time with us. Good night.